you for giving this chance for us to gather here and meet each other to be rejuvenated with new strength to carry out our task ahead. Thank you for our sisters of the Commission of the Lifelong Foundation who have organized this program for us. Thank you for protecting us as we travel and bringing all of us safe here. Thank you, God, for all your wonderful deeds in our lives. Thank you, our dear God, for his wonderful deeds in our lives. Let us sing this version.
That's gone.
Having placed our trust in God's love, we are called to renew our relationship with God now, for we are created by His love. Let us listen to the first letter of St. John through this word of God, which invites us to know His love for us.
Let us love one another, because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. God's love was revealed among us in this way. God sent His only Son into the world so that we might live through him. In this is love, not that we love God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the atoning sacrifice for our sins. Beloved, since God loved us so much, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is perfected in us. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Today, we are gathered here for a wonderful and beautiful purpose. Lord, we know that when we gather together, you always have a divine agenda. We come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support. Help us to grow closer to you and nurture our bond of love relationship. May we always be reminded that all that we do and all that we accomplish is for the greater glory of you and for the service of humanity.
Lord, only you can see in perfect detail the end or every beginning, every effort, every word that we do. Nothing is ever in vain, for even mistakes and missteps are used for good by you. May your graciousness transcend all our efforts and understanding. Stir our intentions to align with your righteous will. Discipline our minds and hearts. Empowered by your Spirit, may we be transformed more and more into your likeness. Lord, we look into your care, our resource person, Father Joseph Nanikal, SBB, and all those who work behind the screen for the success of this gathering. May they be enriched by your providential care. Entrusting all of us in the divine hands, let us call upon our Father's name. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
She did it. No. No, I didn't do anything. No. VM.
A very good morning to you, dear Father Jose, and to all my dear sisters. First of all, I thank Sisters Helena and Sylvia for leading us into prayer.
Yes, it's perfect.
Thank you all for your precious presence at this moment with us. It is a great joy for me to introduce Father Joseph Hanekel, the resource person for this day of enlightenment, reflection, and sharing. Father Jose is a salvation of Don Bosco. He holds a PhD in pastoral psychology with postdoctoral diploma and teaching credential in logotherapy, MA sociology, MA counseling psychology, and MA in organizational development. He holds membership of the Viktor Frankl Institute of Logotherapy in Dallas, a conference of Catholic Psychologists India, and of the Salesian Psychological Association of South Asia, of which he was a two-term president. He is a professor in Salesian College of Philosophy and Post-Novitiate Commission in Sonada, in India Institute of Catechetics and Communication in Calcutta, in Don Bosco Renewal Center, Bangalore, where he is the program director and therapist, and a visiting professor in numerous Catholic institutes of higher education in India. He has been in the formation of Salesians for 20 years, 6 years as provincial coordinator for education and culture, 9 years as rector and director of ongoing formation services at Deepika, Kolkata, 10 years in retreat and parish ministries in India and the USA, and 27 years in liturgical music and musical training. He has authored the book Gifted Journey, and it is a very popular book. He is the editor of Herald and many other publications. Currently, he is also involved in counseling and spiritual direction in this province, research and teaching of the transformative formation paradigm, along with other ongoing formation services, consultancy, training, and writing. Father Jose has a vast experience at the national, international, and intercultural levels. He is a man of the times, quite open to the changing realities, creative in responding to the present-day challenges of concentrated persons. He is very informal, human, and friendly. We are indeed highly privileged to have you, dear Father, as the resource person for today's program for our sisters. On behalf of our provincial, the ongoing Formation Commission, and all of us gathered here, I'm very happy to extend a very warm welcome to you, dear Father. Welcome. Dear sisters, the ongoing Formation Commission extends a warm welcome to each of you who are present here and others who are not able to be here and following online. Now I invite Father Jose to enlighten us on the topic dynamic relationship with Christ. Over to you, Father.
Well, Sister Pushpam, thank you very much for your beautiful introduction. It is more beautiful than deserved, but very nice to hear that all of you are there, and I can see a large crowd. I've always been a good friend. I've had a great friend in Sister Pushpam. And so when I got this call, I just said yes, even without thinking what it involves and so on. Shall I tell you that I'm actually addressing you from Bangalore, from Montfort College of Bangalore province. It's disturbing them. Okay. So I look forward to spending an hour with you. Great. I hope you will find it useful. Yes, I'm opening the slides now. All right. John. That blue. Yeah. This is not, you're presenting to everyone.
Will I be able to see?
Yeah. Sister, able to see? No, I don't think. And probably they're not hearing me also.
Yes, Father.
Is it clear?
Yes, Father.
No, it is clear. It is.
Test. This will close.
Yeah, close it. Presenting to everyone. Yeah, this one.
This one.
Yeah.
Where's the original file?
You want to open the original file, no? Yeah, it is here. Yeah, that's the one.
You asked to now.
Can you see it now, sister? Hello? Sister? Yes,
Father.
they can see. They can see. Okay, then. We'll go like this, and my part of it may not come. Okay, that's right. That's okay.
So if you don't go, please do.
Move that down. They can see me. Okay, that's great. Okay, let's put it back. Yeah. They are seeing, but not I.
Once if you want to sit down,
Yeah.
you sit.
Okay, we can do that. All right. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Yes, I want to thank Father Vijay for getting this for me. So we have a nice topic today: dynamic relationship with Christ. Relationship, we know what it is. Dynamic is the problem. How does it become dynamic? What is a dynamic relationship, and so on? And I've tried to, in addressing this, I wanted to clarify the title first. So that will be, where's the next one? Can you see that, sister? Hello?
Yes,
You can see, no? All right. So where's the next view? Oh my, how do I get it to move? Hmm. One minute, I'm sorry, I have to move next. But I can't see it. Well, no, I have to get you back, sister. 1 minute. 1 minute. Vijay? Vijay? 1 minute, 1 minute. Uh, just 1 minute, he's coming here. No, I can't move the file and then I can't move the slide to the next one.
Listen, Arman used.
Only that will work, huh? Okay. Good. Okay, now you can see, sister. Hello?
yes, Father.
Yes. Okay. So that's the first slide. Now here we are, the second slide. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. I wanted to clarify that title by sort of adding some small words. I'm saying relating with Christ is a dynamic experience. And that is what we shall try to see here. In other words, that means living with and for Christ needs dynamism and transformation. So, in other words, living with and for Christ, unless it is accompanied by the two things of dynamism and transformation. Dynamism means movement, dynamism means moving with energy. So, it is not just movement, but moving with energy. It is dynamic, not static, which is the opposite. So, dynamism, and that dynamism causes transformation. Transformation means change. And it causes change to the person who has been made dynamic in the process. So, this is how I'm looking and understanding the title. Relating with Christ anywhere, anytime, by anybody demands that the person is ready for a dynamic shift, a dynamic experience, which actually will lead to the transformation of the person. Now, one may ask, how? How does this happen? And that is what this program is about. And so, what I did was, I said, let us look at a couple of passages in the scriptures. And those passages should be able to give us some key as to how this dynamic shift takes place in the person who is in love with Christ, who is relating with Christ. And that is what we shall do in this program. Therefore, the first story that we are looking at is from Luke 19, 1 to 10. And it is the story of Zacchaeus. Now, I start by calling him Zacchaeus, but later on I call him only Zach. All right? Zach means Zacchaeus. Now, Zacchaeus is introduced as a short guy, and he is running up this, sycamore tree because he wants to only look at Jesus. He just wanted to see Jesus. He was kind of a shy guy, and he didn't want to show himself publicly too much. And so he looks for a high tree and he climbs up there and so on. So that's the character. He doesn't make too much noise, he doesn't expose himself too much. His desires are all sort of in control. He likes to do many things, but because of something going on in him with regard to his height or something, he doesn't want to do it too openly. And so his goal was very limited. He just wanted to see Jesus, that's all. And somebody sitting on the top there can see someone without being seen himself. And that is what Zacchaeus wanted. Now, the problem is, Jesus walks towards this tree, and as soon as he comes to the bottom of the tree, what he does is something that Zacchaeus did not expect. He looks up. Now, what made him look up, we don't know. But the fact of the matter is, he looked up and he looks at Zacchaeus, and Zacchaeus sees himself to be seen by Jesus. And worse still, what Jesus does is he invites himself. He says, I am coming to dine at your house tonight, Zach. Which means Jesus has completely unraveled all the safety measures that Zacchaeus had put in place. He simply tells him straight, not only will you see me in one look, one moment, you're going to see me for the whole of this evening. Not only, I'm going to be your guest, and you know what a guest meant for the Jewish family. They would immediately go, like something like our Indian custom, they would go immediately into high gear and try to get everything ready for this person and so on. So Zacchaeus was completely blown away from his safe perch. That's what's happening here. So Zach never expected this. He's excited now. The fact of the matter is, he's very excited. And the rest is history. Because this Zach has been the talk of the town for the last 2000 plus years. Nobody can read the Gospels, or nobody can say a word about Jesus or say something about him without somewhere along the line mentioning Zacchaeus. And the whole thing happens not because Zacchaeus planned everything for that. No, he planned everything for the opposite, to be hiding. But what really happened is Jesus came and he looked up and he looked straight at him and invited himself to go to Zacchaeus' house. So this is a kind of a story, and obviously it is meeting between two people. And the meeting takes place in unexpected lines. And somehow at the end of this meeting, they seem to reach some common points, some common areas between themselves. They seem to meet common ground on few things, and so on. And so this is really a place where we find relationships sprouting and relationship growing between two people. And so let us look on the right side to the red section, and let us look at some things that happened to Zacchaeus. First of all, he experienced being an observer, plainly an observer. He just wanted to see, keep his thoughts to himself, and nothing more. That was what he experienced first. That was accompanied by a pathetic experience of himself as short of stature and with timid desires. That's true. It's quite pathetic because he is planning how to hide himself, not showing himself who he is and so on. Quite pathetic it was. And then probably he was taken up by his shortness of stature, and as a result, his desires were never articulated in public. If he could hide them, he would hide them. His desires, yes, we are supposed to look after our own desires. No one else will look after. So unless we look after, nothing is going to happen. And Zacchaeus was ready to make that sacrifice. He said, many of my desires will not be fulfilled, but let it be. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm only allowed to do, etc. That was his way of thinking. A kind of self-pitying was going on. Now, enthusiasm, when he saw that Jesus had done everything very differently, and he's inviting himself to come into my house. So what he does is he climbs down very quickly and he says, Lord, yes, I accept your invitation. I'm happy now. And he must be breathing heavy and happy and all that sort of thing. So what happened is self-pity and self-absorption, which is what he was with before, it turns now into self-transcendence. Now, what is this big word called transcendence? Transcendence really means going beyond our limitation. That is transcendence. When we say we go beyond something, we say, I am transcending that. So, going beyond his self pity, his self absorption, he transcended his own preoccupation with his own self. Transcendence means going beyond, stepping beyond, and so on. So, for any kind of limitation you find on your way, you walk beyond it, leaving that behind you so that now you can explore a new world. That is transcendence. Transcendence brings you face to face with a new reality, a new world, a world that you did not recognize so far. And in doing that, you need to leave behind what you were preoccupied with is now, and so on. So, self transcendence is a way of managing yourself and your world in such a way that you leave behind a whole lot of things you're worried about now in order to take to a new reality unfolding in front of you. That is transcendence. So when I do this to myself, I say it is self transcendence. I am actually putting away my preoccupation with that which is unworthy and pushing myself into that area from where I can now concern myself with something that is much, much more worthy than this. This is self transcendence. So this was the experience of Zacchaeus, where he started and where he ended in that few minutes that it must have taken in order to, for Jesus and him to meet, and so on. Of course, the next part is I ask you to think about from the gospel. I have not actually done it here. What was the next part? He takes Jesus and the guests into his house. They prepare a good meal and all his work. He was a wealthy guy. So, a lot of people with him, helping him and all that sort of thing. The food is served and all that. And in the middle of the food, Zacchaeus, now with his newfound freedom, he stands up and he says, I want to make an announcement. And the whole gang that is sitting there, eating away, drinking away, and all that, they say, keep quiet, keep quiet, keep quiet. Zacchaeus wants to make an announcement. Now, what was that announcement? You know that, right? He says, from today, I'm going to give half my money and wealth to the poor. And all the people that were sitting there must have said, what is this? We can't understand. We can't really believe this is happening in front of us. Not Zacchaeus of all people. He is a person who never gave a naya paise to anybody so far. But they say, no, it's true. He is saying it. And he says it again a second time because a lot of people are not believing him. They say, he says it a second time. No, it is true. From today, I'm going to give half my wealth to the poor. Now, this is something unimaginable for the people and so on. To keep that in mind, we go ahead to the next slide. This way, yeah. So what is self-transcendence? In other words, this thing that happened, this change and transformation that has happened to him is a result of self-transcendence. So let's understand this self-transcendence a little bit more. What is self-transcendence? First, it is the ability to forget oneself. Ability to forget myself and to make myself the center of my world. A lot of people live like that, no? I, myself, is the center of my world. Nobody else can come into that center and occupy it. These kind of people actually get married and then they go and get married. What do? Their all effort is to bring the other person into their control rather than, letting go and going out and seeing the other person at their center. So this first thing is ability to forget oneself. Forgetting oneself means one's own needs, one's own cares, one's own affairs and all that. Those things don't anymore become the center of our life. And then what do? They put themselves at the disposal of Jesus, the person of Jesus. We are talking now of religious. So, what do the religious do when they forget themselves? They put themselves at the disposal of Jesus, the person. And secondly, what he is concerned about, therefore, his mission. Now, this is a shift that takes place to any person who actually accepts self transcendence instead of all the other things, self esteem, self promotion, self this, self that, and all that. No, all that they put aside and they accepted self transcendence. So, these are the two things that happen to them. Again, third thing is no more self absorption or pity. No more worried about oneself. No. Instead, or pitying myself, oh, what am I capable of doing? I am short of stature and all that. All the excuses why you may not want to do something. And so that's the third thing. No self-absorption at all. They are really looking out and not looking at themselves. The person who is self-transcendent enjoys the excitement and the discoveries of living. So they enjoy the excitement and the discoveries of loving. Now, of course, excitement is there in loving, and there is also discoveries in loving. When they get married, they say, I'm sure my husband is like this. And then the first 3 days, you realize that he is not like that, he is like the opposite, and so on. But then to be excited of that is the secret of the success of the marriage. If you say, I did not expect this, I did not want this, therefore I am all upset, etc., then that's the beginning of the end of the marriage, and so on. So the marriage is upheld when we are able to find the excitement in what we discover. That's the point, not what we wanted it to be. So this is one area in which love relationships suffer a lot of stress. People come into it expecting it to be like this, wanting it to be like that, and all that, putting demands and all that sort of thing. But then very often realize that their demands are not being fulfilled too well, and so on. And they don't know how to enjoy that shift. That's what's going on. Okay? Are you hearing me okay?
Yes.
Yes, all right. And so again, self-transcendent people, they promote the passion of being at the center of someone else's world. This is interesting. See, they promote the passion. See, they have to promote some passion or another, because a relationship like marriage without passion it doesn't even exist. So passion is very, very important and central to any love relationship. In fact, if you look at, say, two people are in relationship, but she is passionate about somebody else, then you are not in full relationship with the first one. You are in full relationship with the second one, where the passion exists, and so on. So it promotes the passion. Now, what? Passion of being at the center of someone else's world. I am passionate because I am at the center of that person's world. And that is important. We cannot say I am passionate with so and so, and then I'm, or rather, I'm actually, at the center of this person, but my passion is about someone else. Then your center is also with that person. It cannot be in two different places, and so on. And finally, we say a self-transcendent person is no more narcissistic pursuits of self-satisfaction. What is narcissistic pursuit? Narcissistic pursuit is when I only exist, everybody else doesn't exist. I wrote the other day to somebody saying that in today's world, what's not on WhatsApp does not exist. Would you agree with me if I said that? We are reaching a place where when something is not on WhatsApp, it doesn't even exist. Now, the Holy Father may have gone from Vatican to some other place. That may be the historical fact, but because it's not on my WhatsApp, that doesn't exist for me. No. We should go beyond WhatsApp and all that, and so on. So narcissistic pursuit is my going after things that concern me and me only. And then the pursuits of self-satisfaction can be narcissistic. That means my satisfaction is the only thing that is important. Everybody else's is unimportant or they don't even exist for me. So, no more narcissistic pursuits of self-satisfaction or mere self-actualization. What's the difference between self-satisfaction and self-actualization? Self-satisfaction is when my desires are all fulfilled. Actualization is when all my talents are fulfilled in the outer world. And so, if I'm only worried about this self-satisfaction and self-actualization, then I am a narcissistic person, and narcissistic people are not capable of loving anybody really fully. They're more worried about themselves all the time, and so on. Now, suppose your relationship with Christ, let's read this again. You forget yourself, and then you put yourself at the disposal of Jesus and His mission. You are not giving yourself to self-absorption or self-pity. No matter what your condition is, you will not give yourself to that. Instead, you will enjoy the excitement and the discovery of loving Christ every moment. See, you will enjoy the excitement and of the discovery of loving Jesus. As you love someone, you discover what it means to love, all the things that go along with it, and that excites us. So, in other words, when we give ourselves to Jesus and His mission, somewhere there on that line, we should get excited. We should say, I like this one, I love this one, I want to be here. That should happen. Now, it may not happen with all the points of our life, with, giving ourselves to the mission of Christ, but there will definitely be points on that line. And those points are what we're talking about. And so on. So we have to pay attention to those talents. When I enjoy myself in the ministry and all that, every now and then there will be moments of fullness within us. I feel great, I feel total, and so on. You must watch those moments. Those are the moments when you're totally self-transcendent, you're actually giving you, and so on. And then, if you are in love with Christ and you sort of work for Christ, then what happens is you will promote the passion of being at the center of Christ's word. You will tell other people about that passion. You will sit down with other people and tell the story of how much you love Jesus. And they will have all questions to ask. Sister, what does it mean you love Jesus? You can't even see Him. So you will have a hard time explaining Him, but you will struggle to explain it. That's a sign of being passionate. You struggle to explain it, even without great success, because what you really deeply experience in your heart cannot always be put into words. And it may not be fully understood by people who don't have it in their hearts. But the effort is itself joyful. And that is what it's about. And therefore, we will run away from the narcissistic pursuits of self-satisfaction and self-actualization. I'm not too much worried about self-satisfaction in any area. And I'm actually not bothered beyond a certain point about self-actualization, development of my talents. I don't want all my talents to be developed and spend my whole life developing my talents only. No. Most of my life should be about positive output, work output. I mean, productive output and so on. Then some training and all every now and then is helpful. That makes it a good balance. So this is the meaning of self-transcendence. Let's go ahead. This was the first event of the Gospels that I want to focus upon. Or definitely we touched upon certain aspects of being in love with Christ and what it means and what it does not mean, and therefore where we are in our consciousness all the time, where we are actually touching as important and all that sort of thing. That's what we try to do there. Now, similarly, I'm going to suggest to you another passage from the Gospels to see what that means. And that is from John 16:24. Ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open. Now, this is a passage that we know by heart 1,000 times. Because in every retreat, I'm sure, the preacher will spend some time on this, trying to tell you, therefore, please pray, 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 pray. I have no problem with that. I did that also all my life so far. But suddenly something hit my head some time ago. I think it's about 2 years ago. Something hit my head and I said, hey, we are not doing justice to this line. By saying that you must pray, pray, pray is not the only thing that is included here. So I tried to tell myself what is being explained here and so on. Obviously, these are words Jesus spoke to the disciples. Now let us look at the three actions that he's talking about. Ask, seek, knock. They are the verbs. That means you do this and something happens. You do that and this something happens. You do third thing, something else happens. So now we are focusing on the actions. Ask. Now imagine you going to daddy when you are young and say, Daddy, I broke my pencil. I need to buy a new pencil. I'm sure you have said that. And your dad said, oh, you want a pencil. There is no time wasted between you and your daddy to explain that it is a pencil. The pencil is called by its name. Why are you calling it by its name? Because you know it is a pencil that you don't have. You know exactly what you want when you ask for something. That's what it is. Asking is about when you know what to ask for. That's why you're asking for it, and so on. But is the word seek the same thing? Just think about it. Is the word seek the same as asking? I mean, seek means what? What is an image of a seeking going on? When the old lady was sewing the shirt of her son, and suddenly she had to leave the thing and go away somewhere and chase away the chickens from the home, from the kitchen. When she finished that and came back, and the needle has fallen out, and she doesn't know where the needle is. All right, she has the shirt in her hand, and she doesn't know where the needle is gone. It's fallen apart, and she looks all over the place, and she looks there, and she looks here, and finally it's dark, and she goes and burns a candle and comes and looks. See the amount of time that it takes to seek. Seeking is when you know very little about what you want, and if you know what it is that you want, then where to find it is not clear. I mean, we can't just overlook these details. Jesus spoke words very carefully. And he did not waste time repeating words. If one word meant one thing, he did not repeat that a second time. So let us not say that ask, seek, knock, they all mean the same thing. They don't. Especially here, look at seeking. Seeking is to be done when you know less about what it is that you want. And if you know about what it is that you want, then you know very little about where to find it. Seeking means continuous searching. It means walking here, it means walking there. It means meeting there and asking there, meeting the other person and asking there. So many things can go into the word seeking. It is not the same as asking. The import of it is different. Now, word still number 3 is knock. Jesus says.
Father,
When do
excuse
you
me.
knock?
Father, please excuse me.
Sorry, I put away the mic. Say that again. When do you knock? Yes, you knock.
Sisters, please excuse me who are in the hall. Kindly unmute.
Mute what?
Not you, Father. Sisters who are in the hall.
Okay. All right. Can I carry on?
Thank you.
All right. So this is verse still knocking. When do you knock somewhere on a door? When the door is closed. Right? When the door is wide open and you can see the person inside, you don't need to knock. Or you just go there, knock very, very lightly. But real knocking takes place when you don't know who is behind because the door is closed. And do you know because you have knocked, are you sure that when the door opens you will find that somebody? No. There are so many no's in this thing. And finally, you knock and you hope and hope that he is there. You hope he is there and you open, and chances are 50% chances he is there, 50% chances he is not there. And if he is not there, what do you have to do? Leave that door and go elsewhere. It is a worse condition than the second, seeking. You see, we miss out on these details because the point is details become important if you are in love. You don't say, I am in love with somebody and I am not bothered about his details. How can you do that? That is why Jesus takes the trouble to speak of these three things separately. It doesn't mean you pray and you pray and you pray. No. Jesus says you pray when you have asked for something to somebody. You pray more when you are seeking and not finding it. You pray a lot more when you knock and you are not sure where he is. In all these three cases, prayer is the one thing that will get you through. So now going back to this experience, ask means least action is required. Just few words that you say. And therefore, least amount of dynamism, change or shift. Seeking requires more action. And therefore, it's more dynamic, it's more energy being spent, more time being spent, more attention being given. There's more of everything there. Knock is where most action is involved and tremendous amount of feelings, emotional investment is there, and so on. And therefore, maximum dynamism is there. Therefore, what Jesus is saying is these three things will happen in our relationship. And when those three things happen in our relationship, please don't stop praying. Praying is the only way that we will find each other again. This is what he is meaning to say. Which means what? Which means he is not condemning the need for seeking. Because seeking happens because you lost something. Losing something is not to be condemned. It is to be dealt with patience and with love. That's what he's saying. And knocking in a more serious sense, there is no condemnation. Not only give more patience, more love, more understanding. This is what he is saying. So your prayer should be accompanied by good sense in the first case of ask, but with a lot more patience and love in the second case, and third case, more love, more patience, more understanding, more everything. This is prayer. There are three levels of praying here mentioned, not just one level. Three levels of praying. And he does not condemn those people who are struggling with things. Those people who are struggling with their faith. Those people who are experiencing doubt or anxiety and loneliness and so on. He is not condemning them. No, that is the moment he says, come on, let's close each other in. Let us hold each other with love, affection, joy, happiness, so that everybody can walk out through this. And you do that through your praying. And therefore, these dry prayers that have no sense, that have no, except some statement of some truths, they are useful as ask, yes, but nothing beyond. Asking is the lowest level of praying. It is still good. It is good. We are not denying that. But it is the lowest level that is possible. The higher level is seeking. And the still higher level is knocking. Why is it higher level? Because that is where your relationship is cemented much more. It is like two lovers after a fight, they feel much closer to each other. I hope that is true. It's exactly like that. So when Mother Teresa said, oh, I thought God was absent in my life so often. Absence makes the heart, completed, fonder. You heard that one, right? Absence makes the heart fonder. So, this whole teaching about prayer is to be understood in a more elaborate way. Otherwise, it doesn't serve our purpose of understanding how relationship with Christ is a dynamic thing. This is dynamic in many ways. For example, the levels are dynamic. One moves higher and higher to the next. Energy involved is required more and more as we go ahead, and so on. Love is more important. Yeah, love, blind love, has to be more and more as you go ahead. For example, ask, love doesn't have to be blind. Seek, you have to have love, blind love. And knock, you have got to have more blind love. Therefore, let's keep this in mind and then go ahead to keep on praying in each of these levels. This is what Jesus is teaching. Do not give up. Do not give up. You will feel like giving up, but don't give up. That's what he's saying. Similarly, the next one, experience a relationship with Christ in ever greater intensities and dimensions. Love is not a straightforward single sheet affair. Love is a complex thing. That is why marriages should last through lifetime, because there are so many different experiences to be had in that thing called love relationship. And the same thing for us religious. Our commitment, our love is committed to Christ. Therefore, please be patient. Stay with one another, even when we think they have gone away. This is the point. And therefore, let's go ahead with this. So, is therefore our love for Christ, is our relationship with Christ dynamic reality? Of course, it is a dynamic reality. Dynamic means growing and growing and growing and growing. Investment of energy and more energy, more energy, more energy. This is what it is, and so on. Okay? I'm going ahead to the next. Therefore, this kind of prayer, what kind of consequences take place because of this kind of prayer? First of all, meaning in life is gracefully bestowed on us. A person who is, living this love life in this way, up, down, in, out, here, there, sometimes nowhere, all these experiences and so on, it fills our life with meaning and excitement. What is meaning for you? Meaning is finding my lover and being with him. That is meaning. And that definition becomes so powerful for us, so real in our lives, and so on. The second consequence of prayer is attitudinal changes towards those with different experiences of God. See, the experience of one may not be the experience of the other. When we take up ask, seek, find, those three levels have different ways of being experienced by different people. Therefore, our attitudes towards these people should change now. Our attitude, if it was condemnatory before, it should change to acceptance. If it was doubtful about other people's goodness and all that, it should change to solidity of our trust in them, and so on. Why? Because Jesus said all the three levels are levels of loving. It is not a level of having lost love. No, it is a way of showing, new ways of showing love that is required, and so on. Third, those of other religions, for example, people who are other, in India, we've got so many of those. And those struggling with the issues of faith, so many people face their faith problems as they go on in life and all that. All these would seem to us as understandable. We who are, praying in this fashion every day will say, I understand that. I understand that. And therefore, you have got the courage to tell them, God understands you. Don't blame yourself because this is happening. God understands you, and so on. People are at different levels all the time. Our desire to share our faith with them should be characterized by understanding, compassion, and empathy for their experiencing. Those are the three things that we need to bring into our relationship with those for whom we work. We are only messengers. Their love is with God also. Their love is with Christ also, just like ours is with the love of Christ. It is not about they loving us. We are only intermediaries in the whole process and so on. So when we see them there in those different states of asking, seeking, finding, etc., we will bring into it understanding, compassion, empathy for them, for where they are, because that's what they are experiencing, and so on. Each level is part of the process of prayer and relationship with God. Every level deserves to be recognized as prayer moments. Even even the teenager who gets up and say, Mom, Dad, you forced me to go to church all this time. I am not going from today onwards. Why are you not going from today onwards? I don't believe it. What is your response should be? You are a bad boy? Not at all. You just tell him that, you know what? That is your prayer moment now. Means you're meeting God in that saying, no, He is waiting there looking at you, my boy. Can never escape Him because He loves you too much. If you believe in this, you will come out with those words. If you believe in this, you will come out with those words. And not condemnatory and beating up, taking the stick and all that kind of a thing. No. A stick may help if it helps them to teach that God doesn't stop loving you. Then, of course, we can use the stick, but I don't think it does that. Our authentic responses to God in these levels and stages can only deepen the relationship with dynamism. So, here, dynamism of our relationship with God is because it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. It becomes more and more trusting. We learn to trust even when there is no proof. We believe in His presence even if we can't see Him or feel Him. This is called relationship with dynamism. We are moving with energy in the life, in the direction of His presence. Okay, I think that is the end of the second. And I've got one more. Are you tired?
No, Father.
Okay, all right. The third is from Luke 9:18 to 22. Luke 9:18 to 22. Who do the crowds say that I am? And all those who were awake for the Mass day before yesterday, what was the passage read day before yesterday for Mass? It was this one. Who do the crowds say that I am? Was it day before or? Yeah, I think it was day before or the day before, whatever that is. That's what it is. Okay, so who do the crowds say that I am? The first answer is from all of them. Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, others say one of the prophets, others say this one, our headmaster said this, and they said that, and these people said this. Reporting and so on. It's a style of talking in which they know everything is going on in the neighborhood. And because Jesus was a kind of new phenomenon there, everybody had something to say. And it was very easy to report back who says what. That's what they're doing here. So this answer is easy. Look to the right. It's about the latest gossip in town. One can answer howsoever one wants. You can say whatever you want because there's no consequence. So just gossip. One bears no further responsibility for their own words. Nobody will question you and say, you said that yesterday. But just like I said that yesterday, 200 others said something else. Come on, yeah, be realistic. None of us were serious. This is an easy way of answering a serious question. And this is what we do most of the time. People can engage in such talk as a way of ingratiating themselves to the listener. They will, shape their answers in such a way that they get closer to the one who is asking the question. It's a kind of, or the listener is talking and so on. The one who is asking the question may not be there at all, so that doesn't exist. But listening should be answer. That is the kind of ultimate goal they have at that moment. Often, this boosts the self-image of the speaker. That's what's happening. See, telling the whole world, I know so much about everybody and everything that is going on here. This is a kind of news mongering. This habit of news mongering requires no relationship with the one about whom the news is made. In this case, with Jesus. So this happens all the time, the rumors and the news mongering and all that is going on. That is the first level of answering that Jesus is getting. A very poor quality here, very poor level of involvement. People are worried about what they get out of this conversation and so on and so forth. Okay. Question 2. Now that you said Jesus was not interested in the answer of the first question. The first level of answers, he's not interested. He immediately moves on to the next question. Next question is, what do you say? Now, this question is a call to responsibility. In other words, Jesus is saying, before you say, be careful, because I'll hold you responsible for what you say. Here, the truth should have sway over self-satisfactions. The reporter should say, what I feel in this does not matter. The important thing for me should be to handle truth, to pass over truth, to give truth. A truthful answer to the question is what I should give. And usually not many people are set to answer such searching questions. A lot of time people find this kind of answering too burdensome, too hard and all that. And that is the reason why most of the disciples fell silent. They didn't know how to proceed. Because they just felt they were not ready for such a deep question. I mean, yeah, Jesus is okay. He does some funny things and he does some very useful things also sometimes and so on. Yeah, so it's a good subject for local conversation in our cha dukan. But the disciples were not seriously about who he is. Therefore, he should be someone else, someone higher than us and all that. But they may not have ever thought. So the second question is a question that calls us to responsibility. And who among the disciples bothers to answer? It's the Peter who answers. Peter, as usual, in other times also he has stood up first and all that. And we shouldn't just sort of laugh at his standing up first unless we are ready to understand that this man had something about him with which he grasped a reality quite fast, though he was not able to explain it. So he grasped the kernel of the problem, but he was not able to explain it and so on. It's like a boy or girl that actually can, give an answer to a sum in the mathematics class, but cannot explain how he arrived at the answer and so on. That happens and so on. You can hear me, right? Hello?
Yes, Father, I can hear you.
You can hear. Okay, that's very good. Because the electricity went off here. So I was worried about that. Okay, so Peter risks his self-respect here. He must have been hesitant about what to answer. He wanted to answer, what will they say if he answers this? Because this is a kind of a big answer that he is giving, that you are the Son of God and so on, Son of the Most High. In fact, at this level, at this stage, his feeling must be quite similar to Zacchaeus' feeling of inadequacy. He says, so who am I to say such a big thing? At the same time, I want to say it. That kind of a conflict he's living through. But then, when he says it, what happens? He gains Jesus' confidence. He somehow understands there is something about this man that is special, and so on. Peter's understanding of Jesus, which was fluid thus far, now suddenly becomes more solidified. So by the fact of saying it out, he felt himself a little more certain and confident about what he was thinking and so on. This is Peter's answer. And therefore, what is happening between Peter and Jesus undergoes a sea change because of this answer. So the relationship between them now assumes a new level altogether with a tremendously higher level of energy, love, affection, involvement, and all that sort of thing. Peter now experiences a dynamic shift in his relationship with Christ. So the word dynamism is very important here also. Let's go ahead. Now, at this stage, Jesus, having understood all this, he cautions Peter. He says, "Bear in mind, Peter, the Son of Man is destined to suffer much." Hey, this was directly opposite of what his dreams were, Peter's dreams. What he understood Jesus was quite opposed to what Jesus is explaining. In fact, knowing that Peter has a unique understanding of Jesus himself, Jesus now adds that element which is the most problematic to that understanding, so that Peter is not left with illusions. See how much Jesus feels for Peter? If Jesus does not feel for Peter in this fashion, he would not bother to teach him that hey, actually I'm supposed to suffer a lot. That shows his tremendous trust in Peter. See, another dynamic level through which they are moving in their relationship. And then he says, "But for now, keep it to yourself, don't tell anybody." They are sharing each other's confidence now. See the dynamic levels through which the relationship is growing in that very short moment. And mind you, love relationships don't need plenty of time, not necessary. Moments can make huge differences in their love relationship. Simple moments can make. And here is one such. Few words, but tremendous things are happening in both of them. And so, what is Jesus really telling them? What is Peter trying to understand? The Son of Man is the red part. The Son of Man is meant to grow in self transcendence. Suffering means you're supposed to suffer for a purpose. Suffering is not a great achievement in terms of self achievement by itself. No. Suffering as self transcendence is great. But without self transcendence, it's not great. And therefore, as soon as he speaks about suffering to Peter, he immediately puts into it self transcendence in order to make Peter understand that it is not suffering without a purpose, it is suffering with a purpose. That suffering with purpose, Peter, he says, you cannot avoid. That's what he's telling Peter. So, asking Peter to get real. Don't be carried away by your illusions and so on. This shows tremendous concern on the part of Jesus because he wants to support what is going on in Peter's mind and consciousness. He wants to support and take it to a place where it's true and real and not away into some level of ignorance and so on. And so he's telling Peter, forget himself. The Son of Man has to forget himself and place himself at the disposal of the redemption of others, which is the purpose. So he's drawing a clear difference between suffering without purpose and suffering with purpose. And he's asking Peter, try to understand this, Peter. Of course, Peter doesn't understand, because if he had understood, then on the night of the Passion, he would not have said, "I don't even know him, I never saw him, don't come to me," kind of thing. He said that. Yeah, but Peter was a very, very complex human being, at the same time very simple, very honest, very simple, down to earth, and authentic. And orthodox we don't know, but authentic definitely. Authentic towards other people. And Jesus liked that character. That's what we see here. So relationship with Christ doesn't leave us in cold places. It pushes up our reality. It moves us forward. It takes us where we didn't even dream we would be going. And this is what is going on, and so on. Next one. How has Peter grown through this in that few moments? The words are again on the left. Bear in mind, the Son of Man is destined to suffer much. But suffer much, what kind of suffering? Suffering with a purpose. And what is that purpose? That purpose is for the redemption of humankind, and so on. But then he says, keep it to yourself. Now, how does Peter grow in this? Peter stands alone in the crowd. We have to take note of this. Here is a man, even with all the doubts and anxieties he had, when he saw that all the others were quieting down, he stood up. significant, huge, this one. And he stood up for Christ. That's the point. And then he becomes a friend of Jesus with responsibility. Friendship with responsibility. The other kind of friendship where we are not responsible for each other is not of this kind. We call it friendship by the same name, but it doesn't do the same thing. We are talking here of friendship with responsibility. And then Peter becomes the keeper of his confidences. Jesus appoints him by the very fact of telling him, keep this to yourself. He appoints him as the keeper of his confidences. And then Peter, therefore, is invited to be self transcendent himself. Be self transcendent. Don't be worried about your little things now onwards, but be worried about the other. Be worried about those there. Be worried about other people's business. Business, no, but other people's life and its issues. And therefore, tremendous growth takes place in Peter's relationship with Jesus. Tremendous dynamism is injected into their relationship with each other, and so on. Therefore, what is the time? Let me have a look. Oh, yeah, it's good. We are good time now. I'm sort of concluding. Therefore, finally, how does the dynamism in relationship with Christ come about? We have looked at 3 cases and we have identified certain ways in which the dynamism develops in there. Now, we will bring all those ways together into a list of tips for bringing about dynamism in the relationship with Christ. That's what we shall try to do now. It's a summation of all the 3 cases studied. There are 3 tables. Are they clear? Are they open? Can you read them? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, Father.
Yeah. Can you read this slide?
Can you make your screen larger?
You want larger fonts, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if
Can
I
you
can make
use
it larger.
screen?
Yeah, okay, I can make it larger. There you are. So it is 15 tips for dynamism in the Christ-centered life. Okay? 15 tips for dynamism in the Christ-centered life. So now I'll put it louder here, bigger now. The first set of 4 tips is taken from the story of Zacchaeus. You can see it there? Okay, which are those 4? First, observe and be excited by how well you are growing in your ministry. Observe how well you are growing in your ministry and be excited by it. Now, look here, my dear sisters, I am calling you sisters not as religious sisters, I am calling you as my own sisters. Because very often we don't do this. Very often we don't do this. We don't observe the way we are growing because we are engaged in ministry. Of course, we observe how others are growing because of our ministry, that we do. But what I am suggesting here is observe about how you yourself are growing by the experience of your ministry. And then be excited by it. For example, compare it with others who were with you in school. Where are they now and where are you today? And you think all this happened because of your smartness? I'm sure you don't. But if you are like me, when I also used to think about like that some of the time and so on. We are human and therefore we will make that. But this should make us realize that our ministry gives us levels of development that we could only dream about outside of it. So be excited about that, what you observe there. Second, take the experiences in your life as invitations from Christ to grow up, especially those negative experiences. And all of us experience negative experiences. Yesterday, I was talking with one guy who is working in a big company. And he was telling me about how he's angry with his superiors and all that. They have no head and all. I said, we all knew that they have no head. That is true. But the point is, you know what? in our faith perspective, we have this beautiful way of looking at the negative experiences in our life. And that is as invitations from Christ to grow up. That's the point. Grow up, boy, grow up, girl. Life is a little more complex than you thought. That's what Jesus is saying. A little more. And you will see how it is when you agree and allow yourselves to grow up. And growing up means what? Responsibility. That is growing up. In other words, what Jesus is saying is every experience in your life, especially the negative ones, are invitations from the same Christ for you to grow up in responsibility. That's what it means. Responsibility means your capacity to do that which you ought to do. It is never what we like to do. It is like what we like to do. If that what we like to do is also what we ought to do, then yes. But if there is a conflict, it is always what we ought to do, not what we like to do. This is the second tip. Third is Christ-centered experiences have a gift contained in them. Try to uncover this gift. Every Christ-centered experiences have a gift contained in them. A gift for us, a very personal gift for us. Maybe in terms of experience, maybe in terms of learning, maybe in terms of enlightenment, maybe in terms of so many other things. We are growing and there's a giftedness there. We have to actually discover that gift. And so on. And number 4 is you make return gift to Christ with your own self-transcendent choices. That's right. Jesus asked Zacchaeus for a party. He says, I'm going to come to your house, cook something. And then he not only cooked for Jesus, he cooked for the whole village because of the happy things and so on. And this is make some return gift to Christ with your own self-transcendent choices. Self-transcendent means selfless, concerned about the other, concerned about the good of the others and so on. Those kind of choices make them. So do these 4 things and your dynamism of your love relationship with Christ is going to be levels that you have never imagined so far. Second is taken from the disciples on the event of teaching them how to pray. So tip number one, this would be number 6 altogether. Altogether 15 there are, and this is number 1 in the second list. Asking prayer, engage in asking prayer. So I hope you didn't get the idea that asking prayer is something not good. No, it is very good, but that is not the only thing to stop it. That's not what I'm saying. Asking prayer is very good. Ask God for graces. Ask God for what you need. Ask Him to give you. Even I, who am very slow with asking prayer, sometimes I have got things by asking. And I cannot deny that. So asking is very... But remember, asking prayer is only the lowest level of praying. The next level is seeking prayer. Learn to seek long and hard and walk the long winding road so that you may continue to find in God's own time, not your time, God's own time what you are seeking for. Seeking prayer. Engage in that. And don't blame yourself for seeking. You say, Lord, I have no faith in you. Good. You tell the Lord that you have no faith in you. Fine. That's all right. Because behind that unbelief, you're believing Him totally. That's why you're telling Him about it. And so on. Express that. And so on. So seeking prayer, engage in that. Third is knocking prayer. Yes. Even when you don't seem to be having a lot of things to believe in and all that, life is going completely opposite and all that sort of thing, continue to pray. Place your faith in a God that you cannot see just now. And then continue to pray. That's the point. Number 4, change your attitudes to those who are unlike you in their behavior, traits, status, culture, and all that. Change your attitudes to them. So people who are not like you, if you are living in a community, you will definitely have some people who are not like you. In their behavior, in their status, their culture, and so on. People from different cultures, people from social status, different behavior, and all that. Change those attitudes that you have. In what direction? In the direction of greater acceptance, greater love, greater accommodation, and so on. Number 5 here, Experience the relationships involved in these things, in all these, this change your attitudes, etc. Experience the relationships involved in the above in deeper, stronger dimensions. Yes. Make it deeper, make it stronger. So the dynamism is to be built into it. Deeper, stronger dimensions. And 6, be creative. Don't be satisfied with just the beaten paths in ministry. Exercise creative fidelity. So you are faithful to the charism, but you're also creative about it. Yeah, this is a big challenge. Today's young people, they have become consumers of creative things. This business called, mobile phone, it played on me so badly. This last few days, my previous one just refused to move forward or backward, and I had to get a new one, and all that sort of thing. Now, this is very creative stuff, all that, but we are not being creative like they made this. No, instead, what we are doing is we are consuming. We are spending so much more time consuming rather than creating. It's a very serious thing. Actually, if you ask me, I hate this machine. I literally hate this machine. If there is one thing or anything in this world that I hate, it is this thing called the smartphone. Why is that? Because it is making us do that which is not good for us in many areas. And one of the areas is creativity. It is killing our creativity. And even before we can come to terms with what exists in one, they are bringing out a second model. Go and buy, because they are not worried about your creativity. They are worried about the dollars or the rupees that you can push out. So let us get away from the hate for smartphone, because I may hate it, but I need to have it. There is no other way. There is a need for a telephone. That's very important. So I hate it, but I keep it because it is important to do that. I'm saying push all this out and let us become creatively faithful. Our founders were all creative people. That's what makes them founders and so on. They brought new solutions that worked against a problem that existed. And today we have so many problems that we all know about. Let us bring up solutions. Let us think of how we can help. Let us think of how we can bring about transformation, change. Let us see how we can make human life better. That is what we are essentially about. Human life better. For what? That they may become good in themselves and good for the world, thus good in God's creation. So we have got now 6 plus 4 tips. There your last one is from the model is Peter here. And we have got how many? 5 of them there. First, take individual initiatives. Courageously stand alone in the crowd. Yeah, cultivate this. Don't just follow, saying that everybody is saying that. That first level of response to Jesus' answer, etc. That first level is not worthy of us anymore. Because we are not, people who have no ability to think or make judgment for ourselves. We are people who have those abilities, and we are sharpening those abilities. We have done a lot of time studying and praying and thinking and meditating and reflection. That should show in the stance that we take. Therefore, do not shy away from taking individual initiatives. Courageously stand alone in the crowd. You may be the only one. Do it. The others will see that you are not foolish, and others may join, others may not join. Doesn't matter. That's not the reason why you stand. The reason why you stand is because you know it is the right thing to stand for. We need people like that. We don't need people who can just mouth other people's words without thinking. There may be big issues being discussed somewhere, but don't take it because it is being discussed or because the crowd is big. Those 2 reasons are not good. You must ask yourself, do I know from my experience and my knowledge and so on that this is a big enough problem for me to give my time to? If it is, then stand up for it. If it is not, then stand up again to tell the world that you don't care for it. You must. Otherwise, the church gets drawn away into all kinds of unnecessary areas. And it's happening today all over the world, actually. The church is getting sidetracked. And Holy Father is trying his best to keep it on track. We have to collaborate with him. So just because 20 people stood up for something, that is no reason for us to stand, make it 21. No. The only reason why we need to do that is when we see that it is the problem that needs my urgent attention now. Therefore, I stand for it. That vote has a value, but not the other one. Therefore, we need to, take the individual initiative and courageously stand alone with the crowd and so on. Second, be a responsible friend of Jesus and his friends. So when we gain a friend, we get the friends also. And that should happen with us. To be a responsible friend of Jesus, and then those who stand with Jesus also, they should become our friends. But friendship, not wishy-washy friendship, easy. No, that's not what it is. Responsible friendship. I share my responsibility with you and for you. That is what we say. From that day onwards, I look out for you. Your well-being and your goodness is important to me. That sort of thing. Be a responsible friend of Jesus and his friends. Third, be a keeper of confidences. Share only good things, that which will build up. This is very important among religious and all, according to me. How is it possible that one person says one thing and in a matter of 1 month, the whole province is saying the same thing? I mean, for what reason? That's because, 1 and 2, we have thrown away. Number 1, for example, we should have the backbone to be able to courageously stand alone if needed. Yeah. Those kind of things happen too often. Too often. I am seeing it. Since I am moving around quite a lot, I am seeing quite a lot of this happening and so on. This confidence is being put away, in the public marketplace and so on. The media is doing that, we can understand. The media is looking at what we say as their fodder. They can sell it and get money out of it. That is all stupidity of this world. That's one of the reasons why the smartphone, according to me, is a kind of a naughty affair in the world today and so on. So we should be keeper of consciences, responsible friendship. That's necessary. Share only the good things, that which will build up one another. St. Paul says that somewhere. Become a propagator of the phenomenon of self-transcendence. You should become a kind of ambassador for telling one another about this whole idea of self-transcendence. What does it mean? I can be better than my own needs. That's the meaning of phenomenon of self-transcendence. I can transcend my own needs and cater to somebody else's need. That's what it means. And unless we do that every now and then, our life becomes so meaningless, so pleasure-driven, so giving into what everybody is saying and all that kind of stuff. Our best heroes in the Gospels would be Herod the Great and some of the other guys, They had no problem giving themselves to, whatever you can imagine and all that. There's nothing that, no, we are not like that. We are people who know responsibly what we are about and what we should be doing. And so we become a propagator for the phenomenon of self-transcendence. Tell one another, there is a thing called self-transcendence. You are not you until you are self-transcendent. This is a human reality. It is, of course, the doorway to spirituality. It is that person who is self-transcendent whom will be met by God's transcendence, because God is ultimately transcendent. Therefore, God's transcendent energy meets the one who is already transcendent this side. The two transcendences meet. That is how God enters our lives and so on. And therefore, we become a propagator for that. From today onwards, we will not talk about religious life or, for that matter, any other life as though it was meant to satisfy all our desires for today. Come on. No, it's not for that. Our religious life and even married life of commitment, whatever form it is, that is meant to be the benefit of someone else, other people. someone whom we adopt for ourselves, someone whose life becomes meaningful and responsible for us, and we give in return the same thing. That mutuality is what we are here for. That is genuine growth. That is real growing up, and so on. That is real maturity, and so on. So self-transcendence becoming a very important element of our conversation everywhere and our decision making both. Finally, 5, understand and disseminate how transcendence and grace can build people up to their true heights of existence. Heights of existence. We have two things about our existence. We have the depths of our existence, we have the heights of our existence. Depths of our existence in this way, low existence, takes us to the lowest level. We have the heights of our existence, takes us to the highest level. And therefore, what we are saying is understand how transcendence and grace, from our part, transcendence and grace from the part of God, can build people up to their true heights of existence. And that is how Peter grew to be the leader of the early church. He was a person who was a fisherman to the early church and to the leader of the early church and so on. That is the greatest movement that we can think of. That was the greatest dynamic existence that you can think of. The greatest dynamism that we can think of between two people's relationship is Peter and Jesus, and so on. And therefore, that came because of the transcendence of Peter meeting with the divine transcendence on the part of God, which is called grace. So transcendence on the part of God is called grace. Transcendence on the part of human beings is called transcendence. So when the two meet, we have the release of the heights of existence. Okay, wait, let me get, yeah, it's coming here. All right, I hope that was clear. We'll have a few minutes which I'll give you in case you want to ask something, but there are 2 more slides and we'll go ahead with that. So that's where here. Transformation. What you achieve through the above changes is transformation. Transformation does not make you merely into an expert or manager, but truly into a leader with Christ. There's a difference between an expert, manager, leader. Expert is one who knows what needs to be known, but he doesn't do much of thinking of his own. Manager does what he is told, but he doesn't invent something to be done. Whereas a leader, he is an expert, he may have managerial skills, but above and all that, a leader is one who has a new vision and knows how to reach that vision, how to work towards that, and how to take others with him. This is leadership. So, if we follow the plan that we laid out in the previous slide, then what happens to us is we develop transformation. And transformation which is much higher than, a change that is much higher than mere expertise management, but truly into becoming a leader together with Christ, which I call as a Christ leader for the world. A Christ leadership, Christ leader for the world. That is what will happen to us if you follow the previous points that we said. Therefore, this is your choice, my dear sisters. Either sleepwalk through religious life with a colorless, boring existence. That's your first choice. Or decide to step forward, make the choices necessary, and emerge as the Christ leader that you can be for the world, for the betterment of the world. So this is a choice in front of you, in front of all of us, in front of especially younger people, because the world developing is your world. And you need to sort of assume some role there. What is the role you want? You want to be a sleepwalker role? Yeah, if you want to do that, do it. Sleepwalking role, then of course being religious is pointless, because on the day of your vows you said so many things which had nothing to do with sleepwalking. So we shouldn't find ourselves to be sleepwalking through a religious life, and so on. Instead, decide, make decision to step forward as Peter did. Make those choices that are necessary, as all the disciples did. And then that way you emerge as the Christ leader that you can be for the benefit of the world. Okay? So now how do I get to put this away and you will see me there? There you are, I'm still here. Can you see me? Okay. All right, there you are. This is kind of the end of my talk. And I have sent a sheet with some random questions, okay? Random questions, which you can, there are 7 questions there, and you can select the best that you like and then organize it among your group to discuss. And you can ask yourself other questions also. You don't have to limit yourself to my question. And I suppose I will not be there when you discuss the question and answer the question and so on. So that's where it is. Now, Sister Pushpam, where shall we go from here? Do you want a few minutes if you want to ask some questions or something?
Everybody wants to ask questions? Yes. If anyone has a question, please come forward.
Yeah. Anybody? Well, otherwise we can close up. It's no problem. And,
give us a questions.
sorry?
You will give us a questions.
I have sent it to you on your WhatsApp, I think.
Okay.
Did you find it? No.
I will check.
Yeah, I think it is on your WhatsApp.
Okay.
And there are 7 questions let me read the questions for you. I think that's a good idea. I'll take it from your WhatsApp. And I can also explain that a little bit. Here you are. First question is, dynamism means growth. How strongly are you personally growing in your love for Christ? So if you're in a group of 5 or 6 people, you sit around and each one shares an answer to that question. No need of bringing everything together, but each one shares an answer. How strongly are you personally growing in your love for Christ? Number 1. Number 2 is, what are some of the ways that religious today stifle the dynamism, which means growth, of living a transcendent lifestyle? So what are some of the ways in which, religious today stifle that dynamism that comes from living a transcendent lifestyle? A lifestyle in which we are more worried about others than about ourselves, and so on. Third question is, religious today, are they developing into Christ-centered managers or Christ-centered leaders? Okay, are they developing into Christ-centered managers where you just do what you're told and for the rest you are not involved and all that? Or are you developing into Christ-centered leaders where you use your imagination, where you use your creativity, where you use your reflection, everything, really to push the whole thing forward? Take leadership. That's the question number 3. Number 4, what percentage of today's religious are sleepwalkers? You have to give a percentage. You have to say, oh, Father, there is 0%. I will accept it, but I won't believe it. Okay? So what percentage of religious today are sleepwalkers? What are some of the ways they become and continue to be sleepwalkers? So what are the ways in which they become sleepwalkers? None of the religious were sleepwalker on the day of their profession. 100%. On the day of their profession, they were not at all sleepwalkers. But then what made it happen? Number 1. And number 2, how do they continue to be that without a change? Number 5, mention 5 immediate and urgent steps to wake up religious from sleepwalking. How will you wake them up and grow up to be dynamic leaders? How will you bring about some dynamism in what they are doing? Number 6, are the religious today busy newsmongering about Jesus? You know how all the disciples, they say this, they say that, they say the other thing with no commitment, blah, 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 blah. Are the religious today busy newsmongering about Jesus? Or are they busy exploring the depths of their own relationship with Him? What do you think they are busy with? And so on. 7, which model of dynamic loving of Christ do your group members prefer and why? The disciples model, the Zacchaeus model, or the Peter model? Okay? Those are the questions. Now, as I said, you don't have to limit yourself to these questions, but you can also think about others. So what do you think? Are you able to proceed from now on by yourself?
Yes, Father, thank you.
All right.
I invite Sister Deepa to take us your appreciation and gratitude.
Okay, sure.
Hi, Father.
Hi.
I asked God, where can I find the treasure? God replied me saying, if you find a grateful heart, you have found one. Yes, Father, we express our joy and gratefulness as I request all the participants to stand and give a big round of applause.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's wonderful.
Father, first of all, I thank you for addressing all of us as your own sisters, not religious sisters.
Yeah.
It was very touching. And thank you, Father, for you took us back to the vibes of hybrid learning, which we are reminded of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it was indeed a dynamic class because you taught with authority and full vigor and clarity.
Very good.
The three passages you chose to explain was very apt and interesting for the topic dynamic relationship. The transformation in the life of Zach, how he comes out of his pathetic experience to self-transcendence. And your explanation about prayer was mind-blowing experience, Mother. And it moved us deeply to introspect ourselves to which level we belong to. Let us ask, seek, and knock. And personally, I think most of the time I'm in the level of asking. That
Yes.
is least action and least dynamism.
That's right. Yeah.
But it concerned us saying that every level deserves to be recognized as prayer moments.
Yes.
So it was really helpful, Father. And the third one, how Peter's growth towards transcendence. How he stands alone in the crowd and he becomes a friend of Jesus with responsibility. Also, he becomes the keeper of his confidence.
Yes.
So all these passages that you explained were very practical and it is really inspiring and something innovative also, your ideas and your thoughts.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Father. Especially thank you for all the practical tips that you have shown at the last and the questions that you have asked us to reflect. Thank you, Father, for refreshing our minds, renewing our hearts by your experience and sharing. At the end of the class, we feel you are the person of self-transcendence and dynamism. We are happy for you, Father. Thanks a million, and we pray that you may transform many lives towards transcendence. Thank you once again, Father.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You've been wonderful. And sister, you said those things very beautifully. I accept every one of them. The ask, seek, and you see, that little thing is something new that I came out with last year, and it has been published already. It is published as a couple of pages in a very long article, about 30 pages article, which is published from Shillong Theology. They have published that, so it's already there. If you get a chance, you read the whole article, which will help it actually. And I have already introduced a methodology for formation which stands on these ideas, and it is called transformative formation. And it has been tried in many places, not many, about 4 or 5 places, and it's very well being received. Even my superiors are accepting it. Can you imagine? Even my superiors are happy to receive it, and so on. It is called transformative formation. I think we should pray so that the idea spreads and widens, and sort of brings a lot of benefit to religious. Because I am a great believer that religious life is neither dead nor dying. It is growing. All what's happening now is some of the best things that could happen that can give it new life. And therefore, we are not at all losing hope, and we are trying to therefore help out the process. And that's what we're trying to do. I know I don't have much time, but please pray for me, and yet we'll take it forward. Now, I wish you a wonderful day today. Discuss it, and I'm sure Sister Pushpam will fill me in with some of the details. So, thank you very much. Okay, and thank you, Sister, once again for giving me this opportunity. Very much. God bless you. Okay, can I withdraw now? Leave the meeting. Okay, I'm trying to leave the meeting.
And I get to know what's successful of this day's reflection and share. Okay?
Okay. Thank you. I'll put it up. God bless.
Thank you.